Okay, we're going to look at some problems here to prepare you for the Unit 2 test. These first 7 are from the practice Unit 2 test that I gave you a few days ago. So let's go over these first. Okay, so a student worked out at a gym continuously for 50 minutes. The graph shows the remaining percentage of the workout as a linear function x, the time in minutes. Okay, so basically what that says, and this is always the case, the horizontal axis on any graph is always the domain, and the vertical axis is always the range. They give you a hint here. This is x and this is y. Okay? So that's the domain and that's the range. So it says, which answer choice best describes the domain and the range? Well, you know the domain goes from here, 0 to 50, and everything in between. And the range goes from 0 to 100 and everything in between. So look at the answer choices. The domain, which we know, we just said, goes from 0 to 50. All real numbers greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 100. No, okay? What they're saying is the domain is actually the range. In the range, all real numbers greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 50. No, that's actually the domain. So it's neither one of those. It's not A. Okay? Look at B. Doesn't even make sense. Domain -2 and range 100. What they're hoping some students will do is say, if they calculate the slope, oh, rise over run, yeah, the slope is -2. Oh, that must be part of the answer, so they'll pick B or D. But we don't want the slope. And a domain or a range of 100 makes no sense. So it's not either of those. So it has to be C, but let's read it just to make sure. The domain, all real numbers greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 50. Yes, domain 0 to 50. And the range greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 100. Yes, the range is 0 to 100 and everything in between. Okay. The important thing to remember here is that the domain is a horizontal axis and the range is the vertical axis. Okay, next one. Number 2 here. The daily cost of hiring a plumber, Y. So the cost of hiring a plumber, Y, which is the range, to work X hours on a repair project can be modeled using the linear function. X hours, so that's the domain, is X. The plumber charges a fixed cost of $80 plus an additional cost of $45 an hour. He can work a maximum of 8 hours per day. So they're telling you Y is equal to a fixed cost, $80, plus $45 per hour. And X is the number of hours. Don't forget, X is a domain, the input, and Y is the range or the output. He can work a maximum of 8 hours, which means he can work a 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, even 0. Okay? So let's look at the minimum. First of all, look at the answer choices. F and H here have X's in them. That's domains. They're asking for the range. Okay? So it's neither of those. So you can already eliminate those without even working too hard. So it's going to be G or J. Let's look at the minimum. Y is equal to 80 plus minimum hours is 0. 45 times 0 is equal to 80 because 45 times 0 is 0. You're left with 80. Let's look at the maximum. Y is equal to 80 plus 45, and he can work a maximum of 8 hours. 45 times 8 is 360 plus 80 equals 440. So the range Y minimum is 80. The range maximum is 440. Look at that. 80 is less than or equal to y, which is less than or equal to 440. So the answer G is the right choice for that one. Okay, let's do number 3 here. A student rode a bike from school to a recreation center. The graph shows the student's distance in miles from the recreation center after riding the bike for X minutes. I told you a few minutes ago that the horizontal axis is always a domain and the vertical axis is always the range. Okay. So it says, what is the range of this function? Okay, well, you can see the maximum range is 9 and the minimum is 0. Okay. So let's look at A. All real numbers greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 28? No, there's 28. That's the domain, so it's not A. All real numbers greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 9? Yeah, we think that's it. C. All real numbers less than or equal to 28? No, there's a domain again. It's not C. All real numbers less than or equal to 9. Now, be careful. This is a trick. Less than or equal to 9. Okay, so you think, well, what's the difference between B and D? Well, because D is negative 152 less than 9. Yes, it is. It says all real numbers less than or equal to. But is it negative 152 even on this chart? No. 0 is the lowest number. Okay, so watch out for tricks like this. Okay, it gets students all the time. Okay, number 4. Total cost to buy uniforms for the players on a volleyball team can be found using the function C is equal to 34.95 times U plus 625. Okay, remember, it doesn't matter whether these X's or Y's. This could be a Y, this could be an X, this could be an A, this could be a B. It just doesn't matter. Okay, once they take this form, then what it's saying is this is the input or the domain, and this is the range. And this is the equation machine, like that box we did the other day in the homework assignment. Okay, so U is the number of uniforms, which represents the number of people on the team. It says if there are at least 8 players, but not more than 12, what is the domain? How many uniforms do we need? Okay, what is the input for uniforms? You know, it could be 8, it could be 9, it could be 10, it could be 11, or it could be 12. Okay. Notice that's one of the answers, H there. Doesn't say anything about the range. Okay, and it's not F 0 to 12 because it said the fewest amount of people is 8. Okay, so be careful. People fall for that one. This one has C right there. That's a range, so it's not that one. And these values here are probably, if you plugged in the domain to this equation, you'd end up with these values for the range. So this is also range. Okay. Be careful. Make sure you read the question. This is asking for domain. What can X be? Okay, number 5, simple slope. What I do is I try and keep with positive numbers, even though I'm good at negative numbers and I'm good at math and everything, and I have a lot of experience doing them. I'm like you guys. I try and keep everything positive if I can. So we know slope is y2 minus y1. So if we go y1, y2, x2, x1, just use, because these are all positive numbers here. Okay, so y2 minus y1, 8 1/3 minus 7 is 1 1/3. And 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay, so 1/3 divided by 2, if you put that in your calculator, you'll see what it is. It's really 4/3, which is 1 1/3, divided by 2. 4/3 divided by 2 is just 2/3. Okay, so that would be answer C. If you reverse those and put x2 minus x1 over y2 minus y1, you would have gotten answer D, 3/2. So just be careful. Be careful. Make sure it's a change in y over the change in x. Okay, number 6. This graph models a linear relationship between temperature of Earth's atmosphere and the altitude above sea level. Which of these best represents the rate of change, which is just slope, of the temperature with respect to altitude? Well, you know it's got to be negative because look, this goes up and to the left. So that's a negative slope, okay? So if you look at your answer choices, it can't be H because that's positive. So it's going to be one of those other 3. So what I do is, I mean, it's rise over run. You can just make a big triangle out of this thing here. And the rise from positive 15 to negative 50 is 65. And the run, basically from 0 to 10, so it gives you 6.5. But because it leans up and to the left, it's negative 6.5, which is answer F. Okay. Yeah, when you're doing slope, just make a right triangle out of it and then do the rise over the run. Okay, and number 7, kind of similar here. Giving you a graph, give me the slope. Again, it says rate of change, but all that means is what is the slope? The savings account balance can be modeled by the graph. What is the slope? Okay, I just picked the first 2 points. Okay, 50 to 150 is the rise. Okay, so 150 minus 50 is 100. And the run is just 1, 0 to 1. So it's 100. Answer A. It's that easy. Okay, if you did a bigger triangle, if you did this, you'd say, oh, well, this part is 450 minus 50, so it's 400. Over 4 minus 0 over 4. 400 over 4 is still 100, so it's still A. So it doesn't matter for a linear function, it doesn't matter what particular points you pick. Okay? That was the practice test. Now here's a few extra problems just to make sure that you are familiar with all of these types of problems. This one says, which one's a function? Well, if you're looking at a table, or actually it says which one is not the function, be careful, be careful. Which one is not the function? I told you, if you're looking at a table or at points, if x repeats itself, in other words, if you have one value of x that shows up multiple times, it is not a function. And here we have a 1 and a 1, okay? Therefore, A has to be the answer. Let's look at the others. No repeats there, no repeats there, and no repeats there. Keep in mind, you do have some repeats on the y's, but we don't care. Okay, when you're determining if it's a function or not, we're looking at the x values. Are any of them repeated? If so, it is not a function. So the answer in this case is A. Okay, what's the slope of a line passes through these points? If you label this 0.1 and 0.2, that makes this x1, y1, and x2, y2. And you know the slope is just y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is 13. y1 is 3. x2 is 2. I mean 5, sorry. x2 is 5. Let me erase that. x2 is 5, and x1 is 1. So 13 minus 3 is 10. 5 minus 1 is 4. So 10 over 4, but if you reduce that, that's 5 over 2. Which is answer F. If you reverse this or flipped it, so you did x2 minus x1 over y2 minus y1, you would have gotten answer G. That's not right. Okay? I'm not sure how they got the other two, but it doesn't matter. You guys aren't going to make that mistake anyway. Okay, here's another word problem. Eric earns $7.50 per hour, which turns out that's the slope, but it's neither here nor there for now. The total amount of money, when you see wording like that, the total amount of money, the total cost, the total whatever, that's always the range. He earns on any given day of the function, is a function of, when it says is a function, the range is always a function of the domain. So how many hours he works is a domain. If he typically works between 1 and 5 hours, what is a reasonable range for this function? Well, in order to find the range, we need the domain. Unless a graph gives it to you, we don't know. So find the domain first. Okay. If he typically works between 1 and 5 hours each day, because the domain is how many hours he works. So the domain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the domain, but it's not asking for the domain. It's what's the range. Here's the domain, one of the answer choices, but they're not asking for the domain. Here's kind of a modified domain. It's got the number 6 in it, but it's not either of those. And a range is just a function of the domain. You take into account this $7.50 per hour, you can say range is equal to 750 times domain. Okay, if you plug in 1, you get range is equal to 750. You plug in 2 to the domain there, range is equal to $15. You plug in 3, range is equal to $22.50. See where we're going on this? It's answer C right there. Okay? That's how you do that. Okay, straight slope. I'm going to show you one of the tricks I use when I'm doing problems like this. It says, based on a table, what is the rate of change mean and what's the slope of the balance of the student's bank account in dollars and cents per month? Okay. You can take any 2 points and do the y2, y1, x2, x1, and so forth if you want. What I try and do when I get a table or a series of points is find, is there any separation in the domain, in the x value, of 1? I have that right here. 10 minus 9 is 1, which means when I do my fraction for slope or rate of change, my denominator is 1. So really all I'm doing is subtracting the y's. So 87 minus 80.50 is $6.50. Is the answer. Here's another case where the separation is 1. 61 minus 54.50 still 650. If you pick the first 2 points, you still get the same answer. 35 minus 22 is 13, but now you have to divide 13 by 2 minus 0, by 2. 13 divided by 2 is still 650. And you could have taken the first point and the last point if you wanted this one and this one. That means you take this one and this one. 87 minus 22 is 65. 10 minus 0 is 10. 65 divided by 10, hey, look, it's still 650. So it doesn't matter what 2 points you take. The point I was trying to make was if you pick it so that the x values are only 1 apart, if that's available to you, then it just makes it a subtraction problem. Just subtract the 2 y's and you're done. Because there's no denominator. Well, there is a denominator, but it's 1. That's all you care about. Okay. Okay, a straight slope problem. Which of these best represents the rate of change for this graph? So pick any point. I'd start with 0, 0. That makes it easy. And then go to 1. Your denominators, because remember this is run with the domain. This is rise or the range. Okay. So if you have a run of 1, what's your rise up to there? The rise is 400. So rise over run, 400 divided by 1 is 400. There it is. If you did it in reverse, if you did run over rise, you would have gotten answer H, 1 over 400. And if you didn't look at the numbers, if you just looked at the first block, you would have gone like this. Oh, look, it's 200. Okay, but this value here isn't 1, it's really 0.5. So 200 divided by 0.5 is 400. But if you didn't realize that, you would have picked 200 and picked this one. If you did that in reverse, you would have picked this one. Okay, but the real answer is 400. Okay, this is an interesting one. What it says is, which of the following graphs has a domain of -2 is less than x less than or equal to 3, and the range, which I'll put in red, of -3 is less than y less than or equal to +2. Okay, so let's look at domain first. The way I do these problems is, especially like this when I have 4 graphs, so I'll put the domain on every single one of them. Now, -2 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 3. So on the -2 part here, it's going to have an open circle because it is less than. On the +3, it's going to have a closed circle because it's got less than or equal to here. Okay? So, open circle for less than, closed circle. And it's everything in between. Okay? That's the domain. Open circle, closed circle. Open circle, closed circle. Open circle, closed circle. Okay, so those are the domains. Now, which ones match those? If I look at A, I can say, yeah, that matches the open circle, and that matches the closed circle. It could be A. I could look at C, yeah, that matches the open circle, and that matches closed circle, so it could be C. I'll look at B, that doesn't match anything, and that doesn't match anything. And D, that doesn't match anything, and that doesn't match anything. Okay, so it's neither one of those. Get rid of those bad boys. Okay, so it's got to be A or C. Now, let's look at the range. Range, -3 is less than y, which is less than or equal to 2. So open circle on -3 on the y-axis, closed circle on +2. So open circle on -3, closed circle on +2, and everything in between. Open circle on -3, closed circle on +2. Okay. Does this open circle on C, does this open circle match that closed circle there? No. And does the closed circle match the open circle there? No. So it's not C. Let's just make sure on A that they match. Closed circle, open circle. Yes, the answer is A. Okay. That one is not hard if you just think about what you're looking at. If you just blow right through it and you don't pay attention to the less than or equal to signs and stuff like that, open circle, closed circle, you're probably going to miss it. Okay, you have to be very meticulous on this kind of problem. It's not hard, but if you lose track of what you're doing, you might mess it up. Okay, and this one here says, which one's a function? Do the vertical line test. Okay, intersects there, intersects there. It's not that one. Vertical line test. Nope. Oh, look, a $sign. But still, it doesn't pass the vertical line test. Okay, intersects in 3 spots. So it's not that one. Vertical line test. No matter where I draw the vertical line, it only intersects it at 1 point. So that one looks good. Let's do it here. Nope, intersects multiple points. So it's not that one. So the answer is G. Okay. Okay, well, a table. The cost of ground beef at Meats and More Market is a function of the number of pounds purchased. The cost of ground beef in pounds is shown in the table below. Based on the data in the table, what is the rate of change? What is the slope of the cost per pound of ground beef? Since they're all separated by 1, it doesn't matter what 2 points you pick. All you have to do is subtract. Okay, 17 minus 1360, $3.40. 1360 minus 1020, $3.40. 1020 minus 680, $3.40. $17 minus 680, going all the way from there. Okay, it's $10.20, but you have to divide it by 5 minus 2, which is 3. And it's $3.40. Okay, because this was a griddable, there's no multiple choice on this one, but it would have been $3.40. There are no griddables on your unit test. Okay, they're all multiple choice, no griddables, and no fill in the blank. So, like I said, 15 questions, and that's that. So, come in when it's time to take the test, which is either going to be, it's going to be Thursday for periods 1 through 4 and Friday for periods 5 through 8. It will probably only take 20 to 30 minutes if you know what you're doing. If you studied and looked at these problems and kind of know what you're doing, it'll take you 20 to 30 minutes. I'm giving you the whole period, so you have about an hour to do them. Okay, but I'm going to start the tests basically as soon as the period starts. So as soon as you sign in to Zoom, you'll be able to go to your test and start taking it. Make sure you have a calculator and make sure you finish, because at the end of the period, I'm going to close out the exam. So whether you're done or not, you're done. Okay, you guys will knock this dead. So I'm not too worried about any of you. Okay, well, good luck.